Grand existence, citizens of the universe. I'm JD, Nicholas Jensen Denton. As you know, this is my pharmacopoeia, and today I've got plant medicine of the day number 4. That is curcuma longa, which I have right here, which is actually going to be a herbal plant medicine. So I guess it's plant medicines, but it is going to act as a single plant medicine of the day because, as you're about to find out, you can't have one without the other. So, turmeric and black pepper, piper nigrum. And this is often referred to in the scientific literature as the golden spice. Now, I'm not talking about the golden spice from Dune, although if you use it correctly, maybe, because what we actually have here is, I believe as John D said, a thaumaturgic, in other words, miraculous, biologically active plant medicine. Now, what it really is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory device, which is a highly sought-after pharmacological action by the pharmaceutical industry, because if you didn't know, I'll have you know that inflammation is correlated with 7 out of the 7 top diseases in America. So I'm not going to list them all. I've got the sources at jdspharmacopoeia.com/product/turmeric. You should definitely look into them because it's highly informative. I try not to speak any fallacies. I stick to the truth and scientific fact, and I think those two are not usually totally mutually inclusive, but that's a topic for another time. Frankly, what we have here is curcuma longa, turmeric and black pepper. That is the 2 active ingredients which I want to talk about, piperine and curcumin. Now, these are both very interesting because they come from the amino acids, as all secondary metabolites in plants come from all specialized metabolites in plants come from precursors known as amino acids. These are essential nutrients in our diet that we must get. Usually our body cannot produce them. I think there's 22 total, 9 or 10 or 11 of them that our body cannot produce, and it's absolutely essential that we get them from the environment. This is why nutrition is so important, because you run out of one of these amino acids and you're going to start experiencing all sorts of side effects of life, you could say. And I'm not saying that inflammation is the cause of illness. Is simply correlated, and that's an important distinction to make, because treating the symptoms, as we know, does not treat the source of the illness. But by the time you're experiencing the symptoms, it's a little too late. You should do what you can to make yourself healthier and feel better. Now, inflammation is actually a natural immune response to fight off various different immuno attacks. And what happens when your immune system is overstimulated, it will begin producing anti-inflammatory compounds within you that trigger this response, which can help lead to the restoration of your physiological systems. However, when these are overly triggered responses, it becomes detrimental to your own being. And then that leads to further complications, further illnesses, further dysbiosis, which is not a good thing. And that's why it's so actively sought after as a quality in many different medicines, like Tylenols and Advils and stuff. These are NSAIDs are what they call them, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory devices. And it's useful because they're non-steroidal. If you take something that is steroidal, it's going to cause some interference with your endogenous steroidal system. And so finding something that treats that but then also doesn't interfere with other processes is very important. Now, what the pharmaceutical industry has told us is that curcumin, the active ingredient in turmeric, is a new medicine. It's a new discovery, and as of now, it is not used in any pharmaceutical medicines as we can. However, as I said, they consider it a miraculous compound with a range of diverse actions, which can all be related to, we got a lot of stuff is anti-cancer, anti-tumor, neuroprotective, neurogenerative. It has been often used as an rheumatic, I forget, joint swelling, and to reduce the swelling that occurs along with many other diseases such as arthritis. And oh no, I'm experiencing technical difficulties. Please bear with me. But what I want you to know is that it's kind of a mystery as to how this stuff works, because nobody's elucidated the structure yet. But for like over 2,000 years, we've been using turmeric as a medicine in various different formulations, but specifically with black pepper. And this happens because, well, nobody knows why it happens. It's a mystery. There's a lot of theory around what goes into the activation of curcumin by piperine, which is the primary constituent in black pepper. And it's important to note because black pepper's been used as a digestive enhancement and adjunct in digestive absorption for a long time in many things. And so we've got some leads on how it is actually working, but nobody's really elucidated it yet. So I want to make that clear to any potential scientists or plant chemists out there that are looking for something to do with their lives. Figure out how that works, and I guarantee you'll get a little bit of maybe scientific notoriety. But we're talking really about curcumin because it is antimicrobial, it protects your liver, it is anti-cancer, cardioprotective, it's very good for your heart, it's good for your eyes, it is antimicrobial, let's see, it supports your pancreas, it is incredibly good for your prostate, your endocrinological system. It has been used in the treatment of pain, in AIDS, even diabetes. It has a lot of effects within your microbial environment, the gut-brain axis of the stomach, which is that we call that because your microbes in your guts produce GABA, serotonin, melatonin, all sorts of critical neurological compounds that are essential in your functioning. Now, what I like to say about curcumin is that it comes from the phenylpropanoid acetate pathway in plants. That is, its precursor is it's a famous the shikimate pathway, which creates these cyclical compounds or these longer carbon chain compounds, because part of these pathways and part of these enzymes like phenylalanine lyase can open up the rings that is contained in tyrosine, and that's the amino acid precursor. And I think this is important because it can lead us to discovering, like, knowing where something comes from. If you know where you're coming from, you know where you're going, basically. And we've got these two amino acids. Piperidine is where piperine, the black pepper alkaloid, comes from. And these two work together synergistically to create an anti-inflammatory effect, which is 2,000 times stronger than curcumin alone. And that's miraculous in my opinion. Like, these plants, not only are they master chemists producing these entourages of highly bioactive and therapeutic compounds, but seemingly disparate different plants from different aspects of the phylogenetic tree of life actually have great synergy when combined together into the human. Now, I kind of have a philosophy about this. So, like, nature is basically a human being disassembled and shoveled around and stored in various different aspects. I mean, it's just kind of a testament to the fact that we all come from the same thing, and maybe nature is trying to create this one thing that we all come from. And in doing so, it's basically taken apart the puzzle and scattered the pieces all around. And if we can take these pieces and put them back together in the right ways, I mean, we could create another human being from scratch. We could create anything. You can turn anything into anything. Like Elon Musk said, you can create a butterfly. You could turn yourself into a butterfly if you really wanted to. That's not what we're talking about today. But basically, I think this is an essential plant medicine because, like I said, 7 out of 7 of the main diseases that are prevalent in America are inflammatory related. And this is important because, like, most of these diseases are culturally founded. They're not something that we would typically find in nature. And that's due to a lot of reasons. I think, for one, there's a war going on. There is a spiritual war. Shout out Jesus, shout out the Mahabharata, all the greats that have ever came to the planet to teach us. There is a war on our mind, like Prince said, shout out R.I.P. There's a war on the body. There's a war on intellect and free speech, our constitutional rights. There is a war on the sovereign human being. And all this is about is to make us more, they say that the God of this world is the fallen one, and that if we are not the king of ourselves, then we become servants to the wicked ones. And so this to me is all about gaining control of your body again, because this is a mental, it's stress. Stress induces inflammation. Smoking, we live in this culture which produces inflammatory reactions in everybody and everything. Fear, stress, alcohol, tobacco, like unnatural compounds that are entering our system that were never meant to be there in the first place cause these sicknesses that we experience. And now our culture is feeding itself. It's the artificial matrix. Now there is an organic matrix and an artificial matrix, and this is Spagyria is the extraction from the artificial into the organic. And in doing so, we have to take back control of our bodies. We have to take back control of our minds. We have to take back control of our land, of our property, of who we are, so that way we can live in accordance with the natural laws and not self-destruct like what it seems is kind of happening all around us. And I, for one, want to keep perpetuating existence as long as we can in a happy, playful, creative manner, not in the way that it has been going. And so, something they don't teach us in school, or really anywhere, you really got to figure this kind of stuff out on your own, is that the body's homeostasis is founded upon really pH and the acquisition of inorganic essential minerals, nutrients, amino acids, different kinds of vitamins. There's a small list that we can actually distill down to 15 different key essential components that if we can collect these in the right ratios and incorporate them into our diet and our nutritive intake, then our body will perpetually restore itself into perfect health. And when we get into a state of perfect health, we can then get into a state of expansion, a state of evolution, a state of learning, a state of communion with nature that provides for us in a way that only a supernatural force could do. In a miraculous, it induces sovereignty for the individual, because once you don't have to worry about your vehicle and your vessel, all you got to worry about is perfecting yourself, the great work. Now, that's important. That's really important, because you are the mission. You are what you are here for. And I don't mean that in a nihilistic or solipsistic way or whatever. It's that when you become the supreme master of yourself, you become like God. And I don't mean that in a heretical way, obviously, despite what it says even in the Abrahamic scriptures, ye are God, Old Testament and New Testament. You go back a little bit further, it's very explicit that you are this creator being that has an eternal source of energy and life within you. But the purpose here is to restore that knowledge in ourselves through direct evidential experience. And this can't be done if you are living inflamed. I'm telling you, it can't be done. You can try, but eventually you're going to hit a wall where you realize, like, shit. You're going to realize you need to really work on yourself. It's self-work. If you want to change the world, you got to change yourself. And in efforts of doing that, I think turmeric is like the golden spice. Like, it will lead to the golden state of awareness, the golden mind. They say the golden aura in the Taoist alchemy. They say, what is the purpose of roasting reeds and herbs, spices? Because you have the elixir of long life within you. And the only purpose of these herbs is to alter and use as catalysts so that you can have that realization for yourself. And what they call this is gnosis. They call this direct experience of God, of creation, of the source. And how is turmeric going to do that? Well, I basically already told you. It's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory device. It is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory devices that we have known of through the artificial and organic world. Granted, only 15% of plants are discovered, but it takes like $15 billion in like 40 years to get a drug out of a plant and put it on a shelf in a usable form. Hopefully we can pray to the pharmacy gods that that's not going to be something that also has a litany of side effects, a litany of detrimental aspects to it, which like feed us into the hands of other drug creators and other pharmaceutical operators, right? And turmeric, we know it is non-toxic. You know, every time I say toxic or bioactive, it's all about the ratios, of course. It's always about the ratios. But in the overwhelming majority, nobody that I've known has OD'd on turmeric or black pepper yet. However, you should be aware that you shouldn't just eat turmeric because you think it's going to be the way to the golden cities of Shambhala, because that's not the case. However, if you incorporate it into your daily life, you can actively combat in this spiritual warcraft, in this cultural illness, which is causing these personal illnesses on us. You see, the heart, it's all about the heart. The answer's in your heart, and cardiac arrest is nothing to joke about. And it is very prevalent in our society for a number of reasons. In a sense, it's another symptom of an acidic society. Okay, so here's what I need to tell you in order for you to understand why an anti-inflammatory medicine is one of the most useful tools. The blood, like I said, the body is regulated into homeostasis by the attainment of essential inorganic nutrients, and that can often be, a measure of that can often be of the pH of the blood and what they call metabolic water inside the body. That is the alkalinity versus the acidity of the human body. If you are in the acidic environment, if you are stressed, if you're inside all day exposed to artificial lights, if you are doing any of those things I mentioned earlier, you know, indulging in cultural pleasures, then it's likely that you're going to have a degree of inflammation upon you at all times. And that's absolutely what's happening in our society. We live in a nutritionally lacking society. And this is by no means an accident. It was Hitler who malnutritioned his prisoners to keep them docile, keep them obeying orders. It was, they say Osho, I love Osho, but they say Osho didn't feed his people so that they could be more willing to submit to his cult-like sentiments. It is an absolutely essential part of this mission for you to maintain a balanced, nutritive diet. Because if you don't, you're going to enter into this state of acidity, which is going to lead to, which is just imbalance. That's imbalance alone. And we as beings we need balance. Balance between the hemispheres of the mind, balance between our actions with nature, which comes in the form of reciprocity with all the things we take from it. We should be giving back to the world. We should be planting more plants than we're burning. Planting more plants than giving away than we are releasing carbon. Okay, plants sequester carbon. And we breathe out carbon. And so we need to find this balance with all this stuff, because that will be the funkendating component of what brings humanity into a greater state of existence, into what we might just as well call the golden age, an age of realization, an age of understanding, an age of sovereignty. It's no lie that we're under attack. And I hate to paint it like so dark like that, but that's the truth. And we need to put on this, the armor of God, basically. We need to put on the offense and the defense. And I think there's no easier, better, quicker, more direct way to do that than through the use of plant medicines. So despite there being no diseases that curcumin is actively being used for in the pharmaceutical industry, remember, they're oppressive, they're tyrannical, and they profit off of our illness. They're not going to create a medicine for it until they can figure out how to profit off it intensely. That is a tyrannical modus operandi, if you ask me. So, that's really all I got to say. I do believe. I could go on, but I want to keep these things short just so I can show you the importance, why, how. Actually, we don't really know how. But let me show you just for fun. Basically, what we got is turmeric from the phenylpropanoid pathway. P-coumaryl is another compound that it comes from. Here we've got piperine. You see the nitrogen, that makes it a very special compound, especially powerful. If you taste my black pepper extracts, you're going to find out they are spicy. It's fantastic. You know they're working. You can gargle it as well, and it's super beneficial for any kind of microbial infections you might be having in your upper respiratory tract. Curcumin here is a diaryl peptinoid, meaning it has two of these things on either side, and then it has these oxygenated carbon chain in the center, which it's probably this right here that makes it not so bioavailable. However, this thing here interacts somehow with either the gut microbiome, deactivating certain enzymes that would otherwise break this one down, or there's some kind of possibility for sure that we could be seeing a chemical reaction between these two in the acidic environment of the stomach, which might change the structure, it might not, it might bind them together. There's some hypotheses out there that state that it changes the liver metabolis, the metabolism of curcumin in the liver to allow its bioactivity to really manifest, but we don't really know how. Science really isn't concerned with how or why nowadays. A little bit of how, definitely not why. The what is that we know is that it's 2,000 times more effective when combined in its polyherbal form. Now they call this in science a phenomena, the polypharmaceutical phenomena, just kind of an effect that randomly happens. And these chemists, they don't like working with multiple things at once. They got to distill things down to the active constituent, but they don't really look at the entourage effect, which is commonly called in the cannabis industry, which one of my friends says should actually be called the matrix effect, because we have this, nowhere in nature do we find one of anything. Nowhere in nature do we find a singular compound. It's always a matrix of things, multiple layers of causal components interacting together to create the form and the matter and the energetic transitions that we see in reality. And so I just want to point that out so that anybody out there that might be on to something, you're probably in for a big payday, hopefully. I would hope. Anybody that figures it out is going to be able to apply that knowledge to other plant medicines, to other compounds, to other uses of black pepper, and it will be beneficial for the whole culture. So that's why I think turmeric and curcumin is like a spiritual weapon almost. It is something that is absolutely powerful, that should be in your pharmacopoeia, should be in your apothecary at home, in your plant medicine cabinet. If you don't have a plant medicine cabinet, call me up, Nicholas Jensen Denton. My number's on the website. Email me, shoot me a text, whatever. I'll talk to you for free. I'll tell you everything I know. But if you want to make an apothecary, I'd be glad to help you stock it and prepare it to the best of my ability. And let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. It's an antioxidant, okay? This is a powerful antioxidant. That hydrogen, this oxygen right here, these hydrogens, they contribute to the antioxidizing effect of the drug, of the plant. And like I said, oxidation is synonymous with inflammation, essentially. And if you want to escape this inflammatory matrix, you got to get some antioxidizing components into your diet. That's like, we're talking alkaline water, we're talking fruits and vegetables, we're talking compounds just like this. Another cool thing about black pepper, kind of side note, is that one of its main constituents, I said like the human body is scattered everywhere throughout the world, is that there is melatonin in black pepper. So it's often used as a popular sleep aid in different traditions. And so that's just another verification of the traditional use of these medicines for the scientific and modern conventional applications of medicine. So that is it. That's it. I do believe. Thank you very much, and have a grand existence.